Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Season and Serve blog. My name is Melissa and today we are continuing my cookbook series here on YouTube. And in this video, we're going to talk about cookbook photography, styling, and editing photos. This is definitely going to be one of the longer videos in my cookbook series, and that's because I'm going to take you through the whole process of how I do a cookbook photo shoot, including the setup on day one with preparing all the recipes, to doing the actual photo shoot on the day of, including how I set up all my equipment, how I do all my styling, and I'm even going to do a little portion of this video showing you how I edit my photos using Photoshop. If you've been following along, you'll know that this is the fourth video in my cookbook series here on YouTube, and in previous episodes I've talked about everything from how to write a cookbook, how to edit, submit a manuscript, even way back to even how to conceptualize a cookbook and come up with an idea for one. If you missed any of those episodes, make sure you go back and watch those later. I will leave the link to the playlist in the description box below. But for now, let's get into how I planned for a cookbook photo shoot. So when preparing for a cookbook photo shoot, it takes at least a minimum of 2 days to prepare. So this day one is going to be mostly the preparation of the recipes and the ingredients to make the photo shoot day, which is day two, go a lot more smoother. And I like doing this, having this whole prep day, because I can make a bunch of things, have them stored in the refrigerator, and then when it comes to the photo shoot day, all I have to do is take them out of the fridge, style them up a bit with some fresh elements, and then photograph it. So what I like to do on this first day is to get all of my ingredients together. And the day before, so yesterday, I actually made a list of all the recipes that I'm going to be photographing, and I actually went to the grocery store with David to get all the groceries that we needed. So I have everything that we need. I have so much groceries. They're everywhere. So they're all over this table. They're in our window bench here. And the fridge is like pretty much packed. There's a lot of stuff in the fridge right now. Now, determining the order of the recipes that you want to shoot is very important. Some recipes hold a lot better overnight in the fridge than others. So for example, desserts like a cheesecake that I'm going to be making today, that is really good to prepare the day before versus something like a salad, which doesn't really hold that well overnight in the fridge. So we want to determine the order of operations, essentially. So I have my list of recipes to make. So as I mentioned, we're going to be making a cheesecake. This is going to be a Basque cheesecake. We're going to make a burger, a shrimp burger, which is going to be delicious. Eggplant parmesan, telling you that's going to definitely be in my cookbook. A bean salad, a semi-freddo, which is like an ice cream-ish dessert. It's very delicious and lovely. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 recipes that I'm going to aim to get done this weekend. I actually have 4 days this weekend because I'm on my flex day today. It's Friday, February 16th. Then we have the 17th and 18th, which is the regular weekend. And then the 19th on the Monday is actually family day. So I have that day off work. But yeah, once we do that, we sort out the order of the recipes I'm making today and how we're going to photograph tomorrow. And then we're going to get to cooking. The best part of this whole process is making the recipes and having fun in the kitchen. So let's get started. All right, so you can see me making little stars next to the recipes, and the stars indicate the recipes that I'm going to make on day one, so a day in advance of the photo shoot, and then I'm adding little numbers next to them to determine the photo shoot order. This really helps me stay organized and know what's happening on the photo shoot day. And as I mentioned in my previous episode in my cookbook series, I always have my recipes printed out and with me as I'm making the recipe. And I do this because I want to make sure that the recipe is accurate in terms of the ingredients, the measurements, and the directions. So I like to follow that just to make sure everything is going to work out. So I'm starting off the day by making my Basque cheesecake. This is a pumpkin Basque cheesecake and it'll be in my fall chapter. It is so delicious and I love this so much. So you can see me here just preparing the pan, making sure it's going to come out evenly and nicely. And then we're going to make the filling. And it uses a lot of cream cheese, 3 blocks of cream cheese in total, but that's pretty typical for cheesecakes. And of course some sugar to sweeten it up. And yeah, there's other ingredients obviously, which you'll have to see in my cookbook. So when making the recipes, I always like to have the ingredients out, and I like to have all my kitchen tools really easily accessible. The bottom drawer that I opened there is a little bit unorganized, but this is my baking utensils drawer, so I know if I need a spatula or a scooper, I can just go into here and grab it, and I have everything readily available. This makes recipe testing and just cooking in general go really smoothly and help speed up the process. Another important step to help this day go a bit more smooth is that after I finish making each recipe, I will do the dishes and clean up. And I typically do this because I normally only have like one measuring cup or one whisk kind of thing. So I want to make sure that if I need it for another recipe, that is clean and readily available. So I have it when I'm testing out the recipe. And I do admit this kind of turns a day into a big dishwashing day, but it is really essential in staying organized and having all the tools that you need. And luckily, if I'm too tired and I don't want to wash dishes, my husband David will step in and do a couple dishes for me, which is a big help. So after making the cheesecake, I went ahead and started preparing the semifreddo, which is that lemon dessert that I was talking about earlier. And I also prepared the eggplant for the eggplant parmesan and a soup that I'm going to be shooting as well. And after doing all this, I like to make sure at the end of the day that the kitchen is fully clean and ready for me to come in the next day and start my styling. All right, so it's day 2 today. We have a brand new day. We do have a later start than I was expecting for this morning, but I think it's all good. We still have some really nice light to take some pictures with and do our setup and walk you through that whole process. I'm here in my office, and this is where I do all of my photos for my blog and my recipes for clients and everything like that. And obviously this is where I do also the photos for my cookbook. And my office is all white, so it's really bright and you can get really good lighting in here. And for lighting, I don't do any light setup. I don't have any big fancy lights. I only use natural light for my photos. And natural light is, I think, gives the best photos, but it can be very tricky, especially with the weather. Typically in Vancouver in the wintertime, it's really hard to take pictures because of how gray and dark it is. But you get days like today where it's a little bit overcast and, you know, it's still nice and bright out. These are great days to take photos as opposed to pure sunny days when you get too much blue light and a lot of shadows. So today is like perfect for taking photos. So all the photos I take are in this area next to my window bench here. So I get the light coming in from the left side of the image. If I do want to switch that around, I'll set up my boards the other way and kind of shoot from this way. But typically I'm shooting this way to get the light coming in this way. I have this little IKEA desk. I just drag it over here. So once my little shelf desk is set up here, I get some hard Bristol boards. These are just like those foam boards. I got these from the dollar store. I actually used to use these for photography. I just put like a little peel and stick sticker on here, but I did a very bad job on some of them. So these I just use kind of as like a base for stacking all of my actual like nice vinyl boards on. So now for my backdrops, I have a bunch of different vinyl boards that I get from a company called Club Backdrops. They're out of the UK and they are a little bit expensive, but I think they're totally worth it. They've lasted me a long time. And with the vinyl, if you spill anything on them or, you know, get anything on them, you're easily able to wipe it off. So it's a lot nicer than having a paper backdrop. They also don't crease as well, which I really like. So I have all these different designs. The ones that I use mostly are snowflake, warm oak, weatherboard, Arctic marble, and graystone. I'm gonna get this set up here. I always set up my backboard drop first, and I always use snowflake because it looks like a textured wall, and I always hang it up horizontally like this. So let me show you how I do that. So I just use some invisible tape here. Let's take my board, slide it in between this little gap here. Oh, Pearl, have you come to supervise me? That is it. That is typically how I set it up. And then I'll push this up against the back so then this won't flop over as much. Although it is flopping today. Why are you flopping so much? All right, so now we have our backboard up in place. We're going to put the baseboard down, and I'm going to start off doing some fall recipes, and we're going to use the warm oak backdrop from Club Backdrops for that. And this is just like a really nice rustic wood. So I always lay it obviously with the white label on my side so you don't see it in the photos. And I can line it up like this to shoot, or I can actually just rotate the whole thing and shoot that way. All right, so for my equipment, I really don't use much. No lighting equipment because I do use the natural light. If anything, I will use a diffuser, which I have here. My diffuser is a really good tool, especially on those like really sunny days. It also kind of counteracts a little bit of the blue light as well. So sometimes I'll set that up in the window if I'm feeling like there's too much light coming in. This is a really good thing to use. And this was like maybe like $15 off of Amazon. So really good. In terms of the actual camera, I don't use a very fancy camera. I actually just use my iPhone. The secret is out. I use an iPhone to take all my photos. And I find that the iPhones nowadays have really great camera quality. They're not fully comparable to, a professional photography camera, but they are fairly close. And for me, I feel like the difference between an iPhone and a professional camera at my skill level, it's a little much. I do want to work up to that one day, but for now, I find an iPhone is amazing. And what I really like too about the iPhone is that if you have other Apple products like an iMac, which is what I have back here, or a MacBook, like laptop version, I actually am able to tether my iPhone to my computer using screen mirroring to see the images on a larger screen. So that's what I do quite often actually. And that's really nice for getting the shot set up. I can style everything I want it, position things, adjust things, and I can see it all on this big screen right here, as opposed to looking at the small screen. So that is really helpful for me. Tethering it is just a game changer. I also want to show you some of the other things I always have on hand when I'm shooting. First up is a selection of linen napkins or cotton napkins. I have a mixture of both here. But depending on the photo shoot that I'm doing, the season, the colors in the photo, I can easily choose whatever napkin I want. And I also have some food props as well. So in here, for example, I have some dried cinnamon, cloves, and star anise. And I'm actually going to be using this in my first photo shoot when we're doing our cheesecake photo. So I have some of the spices in the recipe, so I'm just going to be using it to kind of decorate the scene as I'm shooting. Then I also have a container full of all my fun things that I use for the photos. So I have some tape here. This is for this guy. This is just extra. I have some little like sticky tack. So I find if I'm shooting something with like a bottle, for instance, like a wine bottle, and it keeps rolling away, I can just rip off a piece of this and kind of stick it underneath the bottle to keep it in place. So this is really good for just kind of propping things up on the scene and getting things to stay in place. I also have a lot of toothpicks. So toothpicks, if you really want to get in and do like fine adjustments to herbs or anything on there, toothpicks are really nice. I also have a little fan brush here. This is for makeup, I believe, but if I put anything down like chili powder, I can kind of get it into a pattern or the areas that I want it. And it's also really nice for cleanup, especially on the vinyl boards. It comes right off. When I get really, really fancy with my photos, I use these little tweezers. These are intense. These are very pointy, so you can easily get in and pick up items in the photo and then readjust it to how you want it. So I have a really sharp fine-tooth one and then just like a regular like eyebrow tweezer. So those work really great for the extra details. And then last but not least, I have a whole thing of T-pins. And these T-pins are really good for when you want to stack something. Like if you want to stack a bunch of cookies or if you want to stack a sandwich even, to be able to see all that layers, you sometimes need to put some T-pins in it to kind of prop up the buns or the cookies in the proper way. Have I never opened this before? Are we having a glitch in the Matrix? I think we're having a glitch in the Matrix. No way. Do I have another one of these? You guys, I have opened this and used these pins before, but this box is totally sealed. Like there's tape on it. Oh my God. Is it a glitch in the matrix or do I have a second box somewhere? Oh my God, I hope I have a second box somewhere because I'm like really freaked out right now. Okay, I'm gonna pretend that didn't happen, but these are what the T-pins look like. They're literally shaped like T's. You can stick them through things and nestle stuff on top of this T pin here. All right, so with all that, I'm gonna calm down for a sec and then we'll start our photo shoot. So I'm gonna take you back down to the kitchen and show you how I prepare the recipe for final touches and then bring you guys back up here and show you how I photograph it. We're down here in the kitchen and I'm going to show you just the final things I like to do before I go back upstairs to the office and start taking pictures. So obviously, to go upstairs is a lot. You sometimes have to make multiple trips to bring everything up. So instead of doing that, I actually have this tray and it's really big. So I actually fill it with all the things that I need for the photo shoot and take it up in one fell swoop sort of thing. I have some fake pumpkins. Ideally, I would have wanted real pumpkins, but we're doing this photo shoot off season. And I have these little like fake pumpkins for my fall decorations that I'm gonna put into the shot. So I'm gonna put those in there to take up. Obviously we need our cheesecake. So I have that there. And I'm really careful with things like the food that I put in here. I try and keep it in the center with things around it so nothing like falls onto it. I also have a cake server that I keep in the kitchen here, so we got to bring that up. I also need a knife to cut the cake open, and then I'm also going to bring up some plates so I can put the plates in the shot potentially and the piece of cake obviously on the plate. I have forks and my napkins are upstairs. Yeah, all I do is just take this up like this and then we start a photo shoot. Let's go. Okay. All right, so we have our cheesecake upstairs. We're ready to take photos of it. I'm just gonna kind of walk you through and show you how I style our board here. All right, so first up, what I like to do is place the food down onto the board, and then I just add my little extra elements. I think I'm gonna add a linen napkin, and these are all like wrinkled and everything, but I like that look. It makes it look like really natural in the photos. We'll see. We normally have to play around with this for a little bit to get it the way we want. Then I'm gonna add in probably some pumpkins here. This one has sparkles in it, so I don't know if I'm gonna use that one. This is like a little gourd looking one, so we'll use that. So this recipe has cloves and cinnamon in it. So we're gonna add some cinnamon sticks around the board. Add a couple cloves around here, I think. Some stacked plates maybe here. Something about it that I don't like. So I'm gonna play around with it a bit more and then we'll see. Now, I think it's typical for anyone doing food photography to change the scene quite a few times. I typically will change it at least 2 or 3 times just to get a bunch of different shots, and then at the end, I like to choose the photo that I prefer the best. It is a lot of work, but you want to make sure that you do get the shot that you want and have options to choose from. All right, so I switched to my other video camera, but I have everything kind of set up the way I want it for the first photo shoot. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the phone that I'm gonna be taking photos with and tether it to my Mac here. So all I do for that is you swipe down, there we go. And all I do is click mirror, click the iMac, and then it mirrors that. So when I open my screen, anywhere that I have it, I can see myself taking photos of the screen on my screen. So pretty interesting, huh? This really helps just make things a little bit more clear when I set up the shots and everything. Yeah, I just think it is super, super helpful. As I'm taking my photos with my iPhone, you can see on my computer screen it moving, so I'm able to look at the computer screen, center everything the way I want it, and then take the picture. Again, the tethering method is amazing, and it's a game changer for using an iPhone. All right, now that I've taken a couple test shots, I can scroll through from my phone on here to see if I need to adjust anything or add anything. I think these ones are good. They're very basic, but I think we're going to actually cut the cake and give it a little bit more, you know, this doesn't look perfect. We don't want to kind of mess it up a little bit. Ooh, look at that. It's like I know what I'm doing or something. So I'm actually just gonna just pull it out a little bit like this. I might do a second cut. I'm gonna go clean this off though. Slice, I think. It looks about even. So I'm gonna fix this piece at the top. How rude. Nestle it kind of back into place. There we go. Yeah, that looks really rustic and like normal. So you see me here changing out the scenery again, slicing the cake just to make it look a little bit more rustic and like people have been eating it, and then obviously switching the scene around again. And then after I change everything and take my pictures, I like to review the photos on my phone, still tethered to the computer, so I can see what it looks like on a larger scale. And then if I don't like it, I can go back and set up different shots. I like to use my tripod as well. And I'll use a timer when I want to do an action shot as well. So I'll put the phone on a timer to take photos. And then in this instance, I just want to hold the cake a little bit up to look like someone's serving the cake. So I'll just set it to take the photos and then hold it there, making sure everything's in frame, and do shots like that as well. And then after completing the first photo shoot, I will switch the boards around and style up for the next photo shoot, which will be the lemon semi-Fredo. So you can see I switched out the little baseboard for a nice light wood color, adding a nice serving board, some lemons, some plates, some mint, and of course the lemon semi-Fredo. I literally pulled this out of the freezer and ran upstairs, unmolded it, and put it on the serving platter. This is like a whipped cream kind of dessert, and it's frozen so it does melt, so I had to make sure that I photographed this really quickly. You'll also notice here that my iPhone is sitting in a glass, and I'm just doing this to set up the shot. I just wanted it at a very particular angle, and this glass just happened to work. So you can see me just using random things from around the house, but it all works out in the end. Another tool that I like to use, especially in the late afternoon when there's a little bit more shadows, is a nice light reflector board. This kind of bounces the light back onto the subject, making sure that there's no dark shadows or dark areas in the photo. After wrapping up the lemon semi-Fredo, I went ahead and did my prawn burger photo shoot, and then I moved on to a nice summer bean salad for my cookbook as well. So you can see me here taking more pictures, drizzling some olive oil to make it look super fresh and like it was just made, and then obviously scrolling through the photos, and Pearl in the background supervising me, making sure that I'm doing a good job. All right, so it's about 3:30, and I think I'm gonna wrap for today. We did 4 recipes in total, which isn't too bad. Normally I can do at least 5 or 6, but that's okay. I think tomorrow we can knock out probably like 5 or 6, maybe even 7. I have a lot of salads and stuff to do tomorrow, so salads and sides actually, so they don't require too much effort. Unlike something like a dessert, like the semi-Fredo and the cheesecake, those require a bit more time. But so it was a really good photo shoot, and I'm really happy with how the photos turned out so far. I think it was a very successful day. It's also really nice at the end of the photo shoot days, you finally get to eat whatever you photographed. So it's nice to finally sit down and enjoy the food. Anyways, I will see you in tomorrow's video for our second day of our photo shoot. For the second day of the photo shoot, I began by making a spicy green bean and tomato salad. This is a fall side dish recipe and it went by really fast. I find that a lot of the times sides really go really quickly for the photos. Next, I move on to making my eggplant parmesan, and you can see I'm styling it up with lots of fresh elements, including basil, a whole eggplant, and some basil leaves and parmesan, and making it all look like a nice scene at a table. And then I moved on to doing a winter salad. This is a radicchio salad with balsamic dressing. I also find that salads are super easy to photograph. You just need a couple elements, and the main focus is on the salad, not really much things around it, but this was a really fun recipe to do, and you are going to love this. It has roasted grapes and Boursin cheese. It is just so good. And then I went on to doing a soup. This is a butternut squash soup, and soups are always really difficult because when bringing them downstairs to upstairs, I always kind of spill a little bit, so I always have to clean up the edges of the bowl. Sometimes I will bring the entire pot of soup up and then spoon it out up here and then set it on the boards, but that's an extra trip sometimes, and I'm sometimes too tired to do that. But as you can see here, I styled it up with a little bit more tortellinis, and there's pancetta and some fried sage on top. And here I'm adding some black pepper at the last minute and some grated Parmesan cheese. I was really pleased with how the photos came out, and that finished up the day for the photo shoots. Now that the photo shoots are complete and I have all my photos, I'm going to show you how I edit them. And I use Photoshop for editing my photos, and because I'm photographing them on an iPhone, I want to make sure I can edit them really well and make them super high quality and meet the image requirements that the printer needs. So to start off, I'm going to show you how I import the document. All I do is simply drag it into Photoshop here, and it'll open on its own. And we're going to be editing the photo for my maple pecan mochi donut that'll be in my fall chapter. This is so beautiful, and honestly, just having it imported raw just like this doesn't even look like an iPhone took it. It looks like a professional camera, which is pretty amazing. So if you're using an iPhone like I did, if you have a newer iPhone, you're actually able to shoot in RAW, and you can adjust that through the camera settings, but essentially shooting in RAW means that when you shoot your photo, you're getting an uncompressed image. And if you don't shoot in RAW and you're just using the regular phone settings, your iPhone will actually compress the images and manipulate it a little bit, so you actually lose data. So if you have that option on your iPhone to shoot RAW, definitely do that. Now, if you're adding photos to your cookbook that's going to be printed, your publisher will have very specific requirements for the photos. So we're going to go through that, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the settings that I adjusted after I imported my raw images. So we'll talk about converting the color profile first, and I'll show you how I do that with my image. So whenever you're printing a document, a printer will typically always ask you to submit it in a CMYK format. Typically, when we take pictures with our cameras, it'll be in an RGB format. So to convert the profile to a CMYK, we're going to go up to the Edit tab and then go down to Convert to Profile here. Then we're going to click that, and then you can see the destination space under Profile, it'll come up with Working CMYK. This is a default. There's a bunch of different ones depending on what country you're in, but for North America and the printer that I'm using, they require it in the working CMYK US web coded V2 version. So you can actually see as well in the background, I'll move this over, that when I click the preview, the image does slightly change in color. So this is a good reason to have Photoshop, is that you can go in and adjust the colors as well. This color change is a lot more noticeable if you have greens in your photo. So if you have like a salad or herbs, it may take on more of a blue color, but you can kind of see that image change back and forth and the colors get a little bit more muted, but that's okay because we can adjust those after. That is okay. And then it is converted into the CMYK color profile. So the next setting that we're going to change is the DPI, or the dots per inch. So when a computer prints out your picture onto a piece of paper, it'll have a little bit more data per square inch with this adjustment. So to do that, we're going to go into Image, and then we're going to go to Image Size. And then here you can see the resolution here. The default comes in at only 72. So this is not good enough for a printer to print. It will print it really muddy and it won't be a clear image. So luckily we're able to change that with Photoshop, and you can have it changed to 300 DPI. And you will notice that the width and the height of the image also changes, but that is totally okay. Make sure that resample is not checked off because that size won't change and you actually do want it to change. So you can just do that, click OK, and nothing changes in the image. As you can see, everything is exactly the same. So that DPI is just a sort of background thing for the program to know that it's in a 300 DPI. So those are the only actual settings that you have to change in Photoshop if you're taking pictures from your iPhone and bringing it into Photoshop and changing to CMYK and a 300 DPI. That is it. From here on out, you can do whatever you want with Photoshop. You can explore the different tools, and I'll kind of show you some of the tools that I used. Now, the first one that I used quite a bit was actually the Smart Sharpen tool. So under Filter, you can go to Sharpen and then Smart Sharpen. And I like to just kind of do just the regular settings that it'll come up with. It'll automatically adjust these depending on the photo. But you can see if I toggle the preview, it's not sharp and then it's sharper. So you can adjust that as you wish, but I just typically just go with what the computer comes up with and do that. So that's really easy. And then you can obviously make adjustments here. There's different settings to adjust the brightness and the contrast, and it'll add in the layers and stuff like that. So if you want a little tutorial on that, there's lots of YouTube videos telling you how to use the layers, how to make the adjustments and stuff like that. So I highly encourage you doing some more research to learn that. But as you can see, you can play around with the contrast. See, I like making it a little bit darker here. Really beautiful. And there's a bunch of other tools along this sidebar here as well that are really useful. But play around with it, watch lots of tutorials, and you will learn Photoshop in no time. It's actually not that hard once you get the hang of it. So once all your edits and changes have been made, I'm going to show you how to save the file properly. So if you go up to File, click first Save a Copy, and there's the shortcut code there. So when you come to save a copy, you can see you can rename it. I'm just going to leave it as is. And then you want to make sure that the format is a JPEG. So this will be sent to your printer or to your publishing company to add to your cookbook as a JPEG. Sometimes it may request it as a different file format, so make sure you just follow that as required by your submission guidelines. But mine is submitted as a JPEG, so I'm just going to leave that as is, as the default. And then you want to make sure that this is checked here. So you want to make sure it preserves the color profile that we changed it to, so the CMYK, so make sure that is checked. And then you just click Save. And then it'll come up with a little bit of options. I like to actually max out the file so it is the best quality as possible and just leave the baseline standard for the format options. It is totally fine. And just click OK. And then it gets saved to your file location. So at this point, your image is saved as a JPEG and you're able to upload that and send that to your publisher. But if you want to go back and be able to make changes to this actual Photoshop file, we're going to make sure that we save this with all of the settings and all the adjustments we've made, just so that we can go back and edit if needed. So to do that, you go to File and then you go Save As. And then it'll come up with, again, the file name and then the format. You want to make sure it is Photoshop. So it'll save it as a .psd file. And then same thing here, make sure that you have the embed color profile still checked and then click Save. So with that saved, you're able to go back and reopen the file with all of the layers and all the settings that you changed, and you're able to make adjustments if you need to. So I have that for all of my photos just as a backup to go with the JPEGs, and it's worked out really well for me. So that's it for my editing tutorial, and I hope those steps kind of showed you how you can take a basic iPhone photo and enhance it to a quality that is good enough to be in a cookbook. Now, I did all those editing steps over 100 times because I have over 100 photos in my cookbook, and let me tell you, that was a really big part of writing a cookbook that I didn't really think about was the process of editing, but in the end, you know, a cookbook isn't really anything without really good quality photos, so you do want to take the time to make the photos as nice as possible. And with that, I do want to share some footage of me completing all of my photos. I had done all the photo shoots and I had edited all the photos, and I was at the point where I was ready to submit these to my publisher. This was a huge milestone to hit, and you will see how happy I was when I achieved this. So check out my reaction here. Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. So I have completed all of the photos for my cookbook and I am so happy. I ate the last recipe for dinner. It was like a reward because it was crab legs and it is such a good recipe. You guys are gonna love it. But I'm done. It's taken a year and 3 months to do all my photos for my cookbook. And today was the final day, the final recipe. Everything is done. So all I have to do now is just upload it to the publisher and then they take it, move it into design phase, and then I don't have to do anything else if I don't want to. Yeah, definitely gonna have some like sparkling wine, something fun tomorrow, just to celebrate this milestone being complete. So yeah, thanks for following along. I just wanted to share that news. It's a big cookbook milestone. And yeah, we'll celebrate tomorrow. Yay! So that's it for today's video. I hope you got some really great tips on how to do a cookbook photo shoot and how to edit your photos. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel because in the next video in this cookbook series, I'm going to be talking all about the process of designing my cookbook, and I will be doing a cookbook cover reveal. This is an incredible milestone to reach, and I can't believe we're already at this stage. But if you do want to see the cover reveal before my YouTube video goes out, make sure you follow me on Instagram because I will be doing a cover reveal there on August 30th, which is my birthday. So, best birthday present ever. Additionally, if you have any questions about any part of the process that I talked about today, make sure you leave your question in the comments box below. I always answer all of my comments, so you will definitely get an answer and it'll help me in putting together a Q&A video about my cookbook writing process. Now in the meantime, make sure you check me out on Instagram and also follow my blog for lots of delicious seasonal recipe inspiration. Thank you so much for watching and always remember to enjoy the best of the season every day. Bye!